our next session is really one very close to my heart. We have two incredible authors, one who wrote Sacred Games and the other who wrote Mumbai Mafia Queens, and whose best-selling stories have been adapted into major television, film, and TV shows. So with a lot of honor, I would, and Benita will be in conversation with Hussain, Zaidi, and Vikram, Chandra. So let's head to the room.
Hello, everyone. I think we are talking about the art of crime in this panel, and it's going to be a little bit of a mafioso conversation. I am privileged to have in the room today not one, but two incredible entrepreneurs, both famous for their renditions of the Underworld, also known as the Indian Mafia. Welcome, Hussain. You are an investigative journalist, and you are India's most prolific crime writer.
Thank you. I was, yeah.
Yeah. Focusing on the Mumbai Mafia. Hussain, your in-depth research on the Mumbai Mafia is so compelling that it is used everywhere, not least by other authors and filmmakers. So Misha Glenny in Mafia, and the Mafia Queens of Mumbai became the basis of Gangubai Kathiawadi, which just got released last week. And your book, Black Friday, on the 1993 Mumbai bombings was made into a film of the same name, and as was Class of 83. And not last but not least, Vikram Chandra, who is also in the room with us today, your friend sitting right here. He relied very heavily on your research of Mumbai Mafia for his magnum opus, which was, of course, Sacred Games. And
Mumbai Mafia, which brought us together, actually.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, a very long time ago, according to Hussain, 25 years ago, when I was starting to work on Sacred Games, the book, I knew, I mean, I'd only seen stuff in the movies. I hadn't had any first-person experience. So my sister, Anupma Chopra, who's a journalist, knew Hussain. So she said, you should go talk to this guy. And so I did. And then he became my guide and philosopher and really good friends. So I couldn't have done it without him. And there's two people that the book is dedicated to, and one of them is Hussain.
Thank you, Hussain. I was going to complete your bio by saying that I discovered in the middle of researching you that you had once been kidnapped in Iraq.
Yeah.
Is that true? And how did that happen?
Oh, actually, I've narrated this story several times, and this might take a lot of your time to hear because it's quite a long story.
Okay. So it is a true story, and people who are
true story. Yeah, I was kidnapped, and I mean, the guy was thinking of killing me because I started making inquiries in Baghdad about the chief of thief. So, I mean, I was trying to find out the underworld guy there, how does the Arab underworld operates. So he thought I'm after him, I'm some agent of America or India. So he was going to kill me, but suddenly a mention of Amisha Bakkan saved my life. So when when he mentioned Amisha Bakkan, I thought he's talking about Amisha Patel. I said, I know Amisha Bakkan. I don't know Amisha Patel. I don't know Amisha Bakkan. So then he showed me a photograph of Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, and I got, totally thrilled. And, he thought, because there was a lot of communication gap between two of us. So he thought maybe we both are good friends. So he kind of let me go or let me remain alive with the promise that I'll introduce him to Mr. Bachchan. And that's how I got saved.
So Bollywood saved you.
No, Mr. Bachchan saved me.
Mr. Bachchan saved you. All right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So for anybody who's listening in, please go and listen to Hussain's amazing video podcast that he has many of, and one of them will have the story of the Iraq.
But Iraq, I've also mentioned about how I've seen the auction of girls there, young girls who were brought in auction there, which used to happen in the pre-medieval ages in India or maybe other places. But that's what's happening still in Iraq. So during this ISIS war, I've also described the whole thing in that video.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yes, that is a whole other very problematic business that we will not go into right now, but I would love to talk to you about later on that subject. So Vikram, everyone knows you're a writer. par excellence, if I may say so. Red Earth and Pouring Rain, which is my absolute favorite novel. Love and Longing in Bombay, Sacred Games, of course, and your latest book, Geek Sublime, The Beauty of Code, The Code of Beauty. Very nerdy book. Each one of them
Yes.
have won multiple prestigious literary awards. They've been translated into 20 languages. You were also the executive producer of the Netflix series of Sacred Games. And the New York Times list, it made the New York Times list of 30 best international shows of the decade. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But you are also the founder and CEO of a software startup called Granthika, which uses groundbreaking technology to reinvent writing and reading for the digital age. And that's not all. You are also a professor of creative writing at University of California at Berkeley. So I want to start by asking you, any kidnappings at your end?
No.
No.
I mean, with Hussain at your side, I never had that kind of thing happening to me. I mean, we had many adventures in the streets and the little dhabas of Bombay. But I mean, I had an out, right? So I would always start the conversation with, I am a novelist and I'm writing fiction and I will never ever use your name or location or anything like that, which then made them more comfortable. Although I have to say that some of them didn't quite understand either the concept of a novel or like why I was writing a novel about this particular subject. So one hitman told me, why are you writing a book about us? You should be writing a book about yoga and, liberation. And he was a very dharmic hitman. I mean, there was only one time that I ever felt threatened when Hussain and I met this hitman in North Bombay. And this guy was high on something. And he was very aggressive because he didn't want to meet us. And his boss, his controller, had told him that he had to meet us. So he made both of us very uneasy, and we looked at each other and we said, "Thank you, Bhai Sahab. Now you've answered all our questions so nicely." And then we got out of there.
Wow, you really, really like to live dangerously, both of you. I want to start with this fascination that both of you have with the underbelly of Mumbai, with the world of crime. And where did that spring from for both of you? Let's start with you.
Well, for me, I was forced into it. I had applied for a job in Indian Express, and I was looking for a job of a reporter who can cover civic beat, education, or politics. But my boss said that we are only having one vacancy, and that's for crime reporter. So if you're interested, then you're in. Otherwise, so like I was like too keen on joining Indian Express. So I thought maybe I'll join crime reporting now, and slowly I'll ask for shifting of the beat, and I can do something else. But then crime is like a quicksand. Once I stepped into it, I kept sinking into it, and then there came a time that I realized that now I cannot do anything else but crime journalism. So, while only a couple of years into it, and then I met Mr. Vikram, the great Chandra, and he became my friend, my mentor, my guru, in so many ways. The man taught me to create the story plot. He said how it should be written, how about the language, about the beauty of construction of the chapter. And lo and behold, a man who was not even willing to be a crime journalist, in 3 years' time, I got a contract from Penguin, and they commissioned that book, Black Friday. It was all thanks to Mr. Chandra, who's sitting here and looking very humble and very handsome. And which I've seen in all my videos, I keep mentioning Mr. Chandra all the time. Even in my latest video, which I recorded about Arun Gavli, I said that once when we had went to Ragdi Chawl, Mr. Chandra was with me, and how Arun Gavli, that gang lord, who later on took Dawood Ibrahim on, and even Bal Thackeray, challenged Bal Thackeray's might, actually gave us an audience, and he met us in this sanctum of Ragdi Chawl here, which people cannot even pass by. But Vikram has managed to sit inside that and being able to interview Arun Gavli. Also Karim Lala, Hussain Sheikh, and I think several more gangsters, which I don't know if Vikram remembers or not. But well, that's very short.
Hussain always gives me too much credit for everything. I mean, I learned an amazing amount from him also.
I want to ask you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer your question about why the fascination with the underworld. So, you know, in the late, I mean, starting in the 80s and stretching through the 90s, and even now, it was very apparent to everyone in Bombay and other places how much control the underworld, or how much that kind of stuff had seeped into every aspect of polity, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this happening? What is happening? Then friends of mine in the film industry were getting extortion calls, and some of them paid up, a couple of them got shot at. One guy actually, they shot him in his chest, and he escaped very narrowly. So all of this like made me curious, right? And then I had already in Love and Longing in Bombay written one story about Sartaj Singh, who was the protagonist of Sacred Games. And this guy just stayed with me, unusually for me. And so he became the center of Sacred Games.
Wow, fascinating. Um, it's obviously a very dark and dangerous world. What are some of the largest challenges, or some of the biggest challenges in researching this, Hussain, and in writing about, the crime, even if you're, even if you're fictionalizing it, which for a long time you didn't do, Hussain, because you were writing about actual events, the bombings, the Taj bombing, all of that. Where is the biggest challenge?
See, for me, what happens is that it was very difficult. As I said, even in Black Friday days, but that was my first book, it was all very difficult to, weave the plot of a non-fiction, a factual story in such a way where readers should feel fascinated reading every page or every chapter. They should not get bored. Oh, we already know this. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we are already aware. We have read in newspaper. So the challenge for me was to keep them interested, keep their whole, the idea that if they should not be get bored and, okay, now we know what is. So that was my main challenge. And I wanted to ensure that people should read my book till the end. So, which is why I used to ask Vikram, who was sitting 7 continents apart, and I used to ask him, Vikram, what to do. Then he used to write long emails telling me that this is how I should structure, this is how I should plot, and then he should tell me a lot of things. In the middle is the beginning, those essential fundas, which a man, a totally ignorant man like me, who was struggling to do journalism or trying to write 600 word story, had to write that 50,000 word book. Was quite a arduous task, but Vikram made it simpler for me, as simple as making an omelette. So,
Wow. I'm fascinated by your response, because I thought that we were going to talk about how difficult it was going to be to maybe interview some of these, mafia lords or gangsters, as we like to think of them. But your challenge was in actually crafting the story. That's fascinating.
yeah.
Vikram, was that? I mean, you're the consummate storyteller, clearly also helping Hussain tell the story. Where was your challenge?
Hussain eased a lot of it for me, right? As I said, that access became something that was initially the hugely difficult task, right? And then also, I mean, I don't know how Hussain deals with this. Like, I spent maybe 10, 12 years working on this book, right? And it was only after I finished, I realized what a number it had done to my head, right? Because if you spend every day thinking about violence and crime, like you said, it's a very dark place, right? So, and that self-care is something that I think about a lot right now. And I try and tell people that I talk to about writing anything, right? Fiction, nonfiction, that you have to be careful about this, right? Because I think what feeds long-term writing like that is obsession, right? Something catches you and then you get obsessed with it. But that obsession can also be destructive, right? Because you just dive down deep.
Wow. So both of you deal with the grittier, the seamier side of life, but you are both artists. You're depicting that life. You're not living it. thankfully, except vicariously, maybe sometimes through your characters. You know, in your journey as so that obviously makes you what we like to call entrepreneurs, you know, using art as your vocation. And what choices did you have to make to ensure economic stability while you were pursuing what is traditionally regarded as an artistic path? And where were the trade-offs, if any? So Vikram, maybe you could start and, you know.
Well, you know, again, this is something that I talk to my students and other young people all the time, that your mother and your father is right. You know, to support yourself as an artist is very, very difficult, right? So if you have any possibility of making money along the way, you should think very seriously about it, right? And for me, I mean, academia has been one way to support myself. And it's, I mean, I've been so lucky that I spend my time talking about something that I love, right? Writing and literature, like every day to people, right? And I guess the other thing is that like anything else, it involves being an artist, involves somehow getting you out there and then breaking into publishing, which is also, as much as any other industry, it's an industry, right? So, and in order to do that, I mean, the other aspect of this is, you know, making yourself known. So like publicity, right? And all of that. And again, I've been very lucky. I'm very bad at that, right? And so my publishers and their PR teams have handled it all for me.
Okay. Hussain, your story is a little bit different because you actually went looking for a job, and that's how you found crime. Since then, you have evolved to become an artist in the rendering of crime. So, how does that play out economically, financially, you know, in terms of lifestyle stability?
See, for initial, as I said, for 25 years, I was a journalist. So, I mean, for me, reporting and writing a non-fiction book was like a supplementary thing. I mean, I don't have to work extra for that. I was doing it, and then, I mean, I was also collating and collecting information, which was getting into my files in my computer. And at the end of the month, I was getting a paycheck, which was like taking care of my monthly requirements. But when Black Friday came out and I got paid for that movie adaptation, and then I started writing another book, and then another book, then there were also some movie makers started consulting me, like Mr. Vishal Bhardwaj, etc. So like the money started flowing in steadily. And then there came a time when I realized that my job and book writing was started behaving like wife and girlfriend. So I have to only choose between one of them. I can't, manage to have both. So whether to choose girlfriend or to keep my wife. So I decided that's better to choose one. And then I quit journalism in 2016 as city editor of Mumbai Mirror. Now, also because I realized that there was not much to do in journalism anymore. Mumbai journalism had become a bit of like a stenographer's job. So whatever you were told, they come back home and they write, and the media was by and large bought by business conglomerates. So I thought it's better to be, independent and write your own stories in your book. And because economically it was viable, I mean, now in the current circumstances, I thought I could do this. So.
Do you think times have changed in the last 25 years? Do you think you would have been economically viable maybe 2 decades ago? Or how does technology play into all of this?
For me, I think Black Friday, even if there would not have been the flood of digital platforms, even otherwise, Black Friday and then later on the movie makers' obsession with non-fiction story would have been quite a big leap for writers like me. So after Black Friday, they made Shootout at Wadala, and then there were other movies that were happening. Even like Gangubai, had there not been any digital platform, such movies in theaters always attract audiences. So my point was that Black Friday changed the whole scenario for me as a writer and as someone who can do well if I keep churning out this kind of books with interesting stories, where there is mafia, crime, and real stories.
And what's coming next?
There are 2, 3 projects. I mean, I don't know if my
Okay, we
Vikram
won't
friends
go
would be
there.
open to the idea of discussing them now prematurely, but yes, I
We
mean,
won't
couple
go
of
there.
words on the
Vikram, we'll come back to you because now you founded this company, Granthika. You're also, a professor at Berkeley. So first, tell us a little bit about Granthika, and then.
So that came out of my own need, right? So the trouble with managing information when you're writing a book is that there's no link between the text and the book, right? So if you do interview like 4 years ago, and then you want to refer to that, you have to go trawling through Word files, right? Or your note-keeping program or something. So for a long time, I dreamed of a program that combined the capabilities of a database, a timeline maker, and an editor, right? And that's what Granthika really is. And so because your audience might have a lot of techies in it, just to give you an idea, it's what we've done is we've created a knowledge graph which has an integrated text into itself. So you can jump back and forth between knowledge and text very easily.
That's fascinating. And so how do you plan to, I mean, what's the product launch, customer acquisition, ROI on your investor plan on that one?
Well, I mean, so essentially the first audience that we want to and have been trying attracting writers of books, whatever, who either fiction or nonfiction, right? And then this obviously has also, applications in the corporate sphere or in the industry and so forth. So that's something that we've been thinking about and want to try and execute pretty soon. But again, as the audience knows, if you're a struggling startup, it's always this question of where do you get the resources for the next step, right? So.
Okay. I think if you put out a shout out, there will be many resources coming to you.
Yeah, we'd be very glad to talk with whoever.
Okay, we will set up, an incubator investor meeting on this subject offline. I hope everybody at TiE is listening because that's what TiE is good at. Hussain, I'm going to ask you, when you first took that first job as crime reporter, in that moment of time, today, if you were to go back to that Hussain, what would you say to him?
I don't know. It's very difficult to answer this question. Maybe a most difficult one. But in those days, what I did was I was all the time working, and I was working like with some kind of maniac obsession. And I was like, even if I know that next day I'm going to have an 8-column flyer headline, I would still be working in the office until 11:30, looking for my next page one. It kind of impacted my family life in a very negative manner. So if at all I have to go back and tell this man, I will say, Sam, save your family life first. Professional life could always be taken care of. I kind of did something very wrong to my family because of I wanted to be good in my profession. Maybe that's what I will do.
Yeah, Vikram, people talk about, the artist. Art is always equated with passion, and passion is very often equated with what Hussain is talking about, the single-mindedness, the absolute junoon, as we say. Um, when you teach, how much of that do you advocate for young artists, and where does one find the balance? I mean,
Well, I
you
mean,
have worked incredibly hard to have all of the successes that you did. And did you find a balance?
I like Hussain, I don't know. I mean, not so much, maybe. and the people in my life have suffered from that. And I'm also like a introverted, grumpy writer, right? So I disappear into my room every day. Yeah, I mean, I guess, again, what I talk to young people and my students about is what I've referred to is like, how are you going to make a living? Be careful to think about that. Realize that this is a very hard path that you're going on, right? I mean, I'm not trying to ward them off, but I'm just saying, this is the reality of what you're trying to do. And it always has been, right, since ancient times. I mean, if you read the letters of Mirza Ghalib, you'll see him trying to do the same thing with the court in Delhi, right? Please, to the emperor, give me a little money. You need to support me in order to make my art, right? And then sometimes he loses it after the British come in. It becomes so sad to read those letters, right? Here's a man of such immense talent and skill, and everything that he's supported on has disappeared. The life that he's known, the culture that he's known has been destroyed and burnt in front of him. So, khuda kare that nothing like this ever happens to any of us, but I'm talking too long, right? And all of that. And like I was saying, obsession will carry you far away, but you have to take care of yourself, your own spirit, your mental health and your physical health. Physical health is really important.
Speaking of physical health and all the dangers that both of you have been through in just bringing alive the world of the underworld, can you share with us some anecdotes of interviews that you did with, maybe the two of you did together with dangerous people?
Hussain?
You want to answer that?
I mean, like
too many interviews with too many dangerous people. You might have some few words, so I mean, it will be easy for you to recall.
I mean, what's interesting is that everyone has a justification, right? A way to make sense in the world of themselves, right? Nobody wants to believe that they're a villain, right? So, and everyone is a hero in their own life, right? So that yoga guy, who said you should write about, the spirit and religion and stuff. One of the other, I mean, I asked him, so listen, how do you justify what you do, right? You get a phone call and somebody says, go and kill that guy that you don't know. So he, without like a moment's pause, he said that, look, I'm just playing my part in the drama, right? Everybody's fate is already written. And so he was doing this kind of, Krishna's advice to Arjun, right? That, you just do your quote unquote duty and the world will take care of himself, right? Arun Gavli told me that, I asked him the same question, like, are you a bad person? And he said, how can you say that? I am born in an unfair system which tried to crush me. I am a revolutionary for my people.
How about you, Hussain? Any hair-raising moments that you totally didn't anticipate?
Oh, I mean, actually, I have plenty of them, but something which has like left me shaken even after 25 years of that incident. That's when someone called and was threatening me, and in the course of threatening, he said that I'm aware you have a 6-year-old son, so you better watch out. And I still don't know why I responded in that manner. But I told him that perhaps you don't know that he studies in Saraswati Vidyalaya in class 2C, and his full name is Ali Zaidi. I still don't know what. But that man who was there on the other line threatening me was, just silent. He could not utter a single word. Though I heard a very, hard breathing full of anger and maybe fury, but he couldn't respond. He just slammed the phone. So I found that to be one of the most difficult times that I faced in my reporting days. Otherwise, there are so many which I could kind of forget and get over them and not even bother about it.
I mean, I don't, like I was saying, I don't understand after all these years how Hussain does this. I don't get it, but he does it.
Fascinating. Well, we are very grateful that you do it, both of you. Is there? Why are there no more? Why are they so few, if any at all, crime fiction writers in India?
I did now that there is a huge glut of
Yeah,
crime writers. Yeah. So yeah, now there are plenty of them. Everyone is now attempting to write a crime book and a crime novel. So they think that it's a shortcut to fame and money. So maybe
yeah. No,
20, 30 years ago, yeah.
I mean, it's the same in fiction also. And I should say also that Hussain himself has now an imprint with Penguin. He has other ventures, and he's a big mentor of young people, right? Some of you will know, right? Hussain, what was that Shah Rukh's production company made that with your young friend?
Red Chilies. They have a guy called Bilal Siddiqui. He's only about 25-year-old, but the boy has already written 4 novels with Penguin. 2 of them have been made into movies, 1 into a series. So, well, there are like more such talented guys like Bilal. So it's only because what, you must have heard Sahil Ludhianvi saying, दुनिया ने जो कुछ मुझे दिया तजुर्बात हवादिस की शक्ल में वही कुछ लौटा रहा हूं मैं, something to that effect. So whatever Vikram has done to me by owning the skills of a man who didn't know much to write or do, I'm trying to do the same to others that way.
Both of you are inspiring, incredibly inspiring human beings, but this relationship between the two and how you inspire each other to be the best version of yourselves, that is perhaps the most inspiring of all. So thank you so much for being with us today, and may this inspiration spread across the globe. And please just keep doing whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
We're all deeply grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.